Well, hello, my name is Cincy, and I am the director of the Hope Venture here. I'm the host for today's podcast, teaching our kids to live and love generously. This is our fourth in a four-part series we'll be doing. So as many of you know, we're passionate about helping people grow in their generosity. We're so excited about this. Much of our day-to-day here at the Hope Venture is spent overseas, helping people in extreme poverty, making less than $2.15 a day. But today we get to talk about our Fun Generous Hub that makes all of that happen. We couldn't do that without donors like Angie and other people to care and do education and health projects for those some of the most disadvantaged people in the world. So this month we're trying to pause for a few minutes and focus our attention on our donors and ways we can try to help you on your journey of generosity. Specifically, we're going to talk about parenting generosity, about things we can do to give our kids a love for helping others, helping our kids to look outside of themselves and see the needs around them. Personally, I have 4 boys. So, Angie, you have 3 kids. You have one grandson, grandson, and I have 1 grandson. Look at this. We're going to talk grandbabies now. Many of you have shared with us some of your efforts to teach your kids, and we're going to have a guest on each week. You heard me start talking to Angie already. We're going to introduce her in a minute. But before we do that, if you have young kids and you are trying to listen to this podcast, we wanted to give you a little bit of extra thing to entertain them. I'd encourage you to give them a few books so you can settle down, or if you want to download our PDF of a coloring page, you can do that. There's a new one every episode. So if you did it the first time, but now on our 4th episode, you want to find that 4th coloring page, go to our website or go to our Instagram. Anywhere there, you'll find that link, and you can get your kids set up so you can listen today. So today we have with us Angie Andelt. Angie's been a longtime friend of mine. Our kids went to kindergarten together. We were homeroom moms, I think, or whatever you call that.
Yep, that's what you call
moms. And I've watched her be a part of not only our work since the beginning at the Hope Venture here, but also teach kids all around her to share what they can with the world. So one thing that's different this week is, Angie, I haven't shared this with you yet, but I feel like you have some platforms with kids that some of our guests have not had the same. They've been kind of talking about their families and different ways they've influenced there, but you not only have your family, not only have your grandson and one on the way. I don't know if we can say that. We might have to edit that out, but but you've also led Sunday schools. You're now the director of a preschool here in town. You do professional teaching, running preschools, daycare. So I think we have a gift this morning with Angie being having a lot of different platforms and efforts with kids over the years. I'm sure things that have worked, some things that have failed. So that'll be fun to dive in a little bit as we learn about her area of influence. And I think if you're a parent out there, I want to encourage you to not only take advantage of the opportunities you have with your kids, but maybe you have other opportunities, areas of influence of groups of people that you could share your generosity with, ways you can. Maybe you're a piano teacher and you have kids, as a piano teacher. Maybe you're a lifeguard at a pool and you have kids that come in and do swim lessons or, things like that. Whatever your sphere of influence is, I want you to, I hope we're in for a treat. So Angie, we're glad to have you. Let's just talk a little bit about your stage of life, who you are, what age are your kids? Tell us a little bit about who you are.
Oh, I'm a new empty nester. I'm not really liking that part of it. I have 3 children, a boy, girl, boy. My oldest has a child and one on the way. Mm-hmm. And you can say that because they're like 40 days out. So,
yeah,
so we're
hoping nice and close.
Yeah, so we're excited about that. I have a daughter that lives in Arizona, and I have a son that's in college.
Okay.
So, and he's a freshman. So this is mine and my husband's first year of being empty nesters.
And where's he at school? I forget.
Grand Canyon University in Phoenix, Arizona.
Okay.
Yeah. What was the rest of your question?
First time being an empty nester, and that's been an adjustment, hasn't it?
It has been a big adjustment. Thankfully, like you said, I'm a director of a preschool. That's a new job this year. So for me, I've been really busy, but I feel kind of bad because now my husband's kind of empty nesting by himself because my job's been keeping me pretty busy. But he's a wrestling coach, so he just got done with wrestling. So now I need to start giving him some of my time. He's been very busy the last 4 months.
Yeah, our guys need our attention once in a while, don't they?
It's good.
All right. Well, we're going to also talk about just generosity, and we said we wanted to use a definition here during the series. We said, out of the dictionary, generosity is a readiness to give more of something as money or time than is strictly necessary or expected. Giving something, money, time, whatever, more than what's typically expected. Angie, I just want to ask you, have you experienced that in your life at all? Like,
you mean others giving to me?
Or you giving to others, or others giving to you? Have you?
I've definitely been the recipient of that.
Tell us about a time or two of that.
We've had some big events in our life, and so we've really had to lean on our church community and our school community to get through those times. We had a really bad car accident early as our kids, before we had our third child, in between our second and third child. And it was really remarkable. I mean, it was actually a Sunday morning. We were headed to teach at Sunday school, and we got bumped from behind on an icy road by a semi and ended up flipping our car. But by the time we got to the hospital, the call had already been made by the ambulance people to the church, because I don't know. It's weird. But anyway, I just kept saying, you have to call church. Tell them I'm not going to be there. You have to let them know that their Sunday school teacher's not coming. Or both, my husband and I were both Sunday school teachers at the time. Anyway, by the time we got to the hospital, there were people from Lincoln Berean at the hospital there praying for us. We just got remarkable support from our life group and from the church in general. From that, and even my son was a kindergartner at school, and so even we go to a small private school, and we even got outreach by them, and it was just amazing. Even though it could have and probably was a horrible experience, we really look back at it and don't see it that way. I mean, my husband survived, we all survived, we made it through. Things kind of went back to status quo, but we just received so much generosity from others that it was just remarkable to be on that end of it.
Angie, I hadn't even thought of this till you just mentioned that. But I went to the hospital that day. I remember, because our sons were in kindergarten together. So we went. My son was really scared for your son and sad for your son. We were sad for your whole family. I remember going to the hospital with David, and definitely remember being there. But also, that's reminding me, you mentioned a couple different things, and just the generosity you needed to receive, not only in that situation, but I don't know if you want to share a little bit about the fire, because so much generosity had to be poured out to you to just get through that situation. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that? Yeah,
we had a kitchen fire in 2021. The day before my son's wedding. And, honestly, the generosity started immediately. The firemen were unbelievable. I got to the fire, and they had already put it out by the time I got there. And I was like, we have a rehearsal dinner tonight and have a wedding tomorrow. And they're like, well, how can we help you? And I said, well, all of our rehearsal dinner clothes are inside. And he's like, all right. He goes, tell me what they are. I go, well, they're all over the house. I go, just let me in. And he's like, you can't go in. And I go, okay. And I'm thinking, there's no way. And I said, my husband's shirt's hanging here, but his shoes are in the hallway, and my daughters are downstairs in the closet in this blah blah box. I knew all the details. I don't know why I knew where everything was, but I did, luckily. And 20 minutes later, he comes out with everything I asked for. He didn't miss anything. He got the wrong pair of shoes, but there was turns out there was 2 boxes that looked the same. So I don't fault him for that. We had somebody there from an insurance company, and she's like, let me just take these clothes. I will have my company get them cleaned for you, and we'll have them ready by the, before, what time is your rehearsal dinner? We'll have those ready for you. Give me your phone number. We'll take care of it. I mean, and she was just a neighbor that, lived around the corner. Yeah. And I mean, I happened to have worked with her husband in the past, and so that's kind of why she came out to see what was happening. The school was remarkable. We had, places to go eat. We had gift cards to go eat right away. And, little things like I didn't have contacts or my glasses, and I was like, I don't know what to do. Like, I use daily contacts. So tomorrow morning when I get up, I'm not going to have anything to put on my eyes. Yeah. And so I called my eye doctor, who happened to go to the same school as me. And I said, hey, this is what happened. He's like, oh, he goes, just go to the office. I'll call ahead. I'll have everything ready for you, Yeah. And so they gave me like a month and a half supply of contacts till I could get everything figured out, and gave me some loaner glasses and, that type of thing. And so it was just chock full of
And how long were you out of your house?
About 2 weeks, under a year. So just about a year.
Yeah. A year out of your house. And,
it was crazy.
We're talking about generosity. And again, it's not just money. I mean, you need somebody to come around and give you a hug in those moments, come around and say, we care about you. Come to the hospital and say, like, you matter to us. Come to your home and come to your wedding. Your son's wedding is the next day. I was so impressed with you. I was at that wedding as well. And I just couldn't believe you're even there. Like, you told me, like, yesterday my house burned down or whatever. We're not going to be able to live in it for a year, and you're finding places to live. You're finding people to offer up help here and there along the way. And that's how we help people. That's how this world, we touch the world in a better place with our generosity. We give something. That fireman who is supposed to just be, clearing out the fire, and to take the extra time to go to get a pair of shoes and a dress and an outfit, that's going beyond his job. And I think that's, again, what we're saying generosity is, to do something above what's expected. You didn't really expect him to get that perfectly like that.
No, I didn't.
Or someone to come to your aid at a moment that you're not anticipating in that over the top kind of a way, and that's the joy of generosity to me, when it's a little bit, it is more than expected. It is over the top a little bit. And I think that can be so fun. Tell me a little bit about how generosity has impacted your life. Like, what are some of your thoughts about, why that's such a good thing to, I see you now. Again, our listeners don't know Angie, but you have been, since I think I met you when David was in kindergarten. I think that's when we first met, right? And you're just always helping. You're always figuring out how to serve. I don't know how many times you watched my kids, or whatever, and you stepped in and helped all these different families. I've watched you be a helper to people along the way. And to me, that's generosity. To me, that's learning life is not just about me. Life is about caring about other people, and you do that so well. How did that get infused into your life when did that start for you? Was there
my mom is a servant. Okay. She's got a servant's heart. I kind of grew up watching that. Yeah. I mean, my dad too, but he was more he provided for our family and took care of us, and he was our leader. And so I spent a lot of time at home with my mom, and she just kind of had that personality. I mean, she still does. I volunteer her for things all the time. I'm like, I can't do that, but my mom's really good at that. Let me call her and see if she'll help you.
But you know what? This is what we're talking. We're talking about parenting here, and look at you do this because your mom did that. Yep. If you are listening to this, that's exactly what we're talking about. Your kids are picking up what you're doing, right? And you picked up what your mom is doing, and that just became a part of your regular, ordinary life. That's how you walked with God, is we help people. Yeah. You saw it lived out.
And honestly, giving money, we've never had a lot of money to give. I'm never able to be as generous as I want to be monetarily, but time is always something I can give. Yeah. I can always find time to do that. And when my kids were younger, I would bring them along. It was something we could do as a family. And I just always felt that was valuable for them to learn and to see and to model and to be a part of. So that's kind of, I guess, what I choose more often. Yeah. I mean, we still give money. Yeah. But we definitely give more of our time. I feel if you have to.
Let's talk about that for a minute. You just said, I can always give time. Now, I think a lot of listeners feel like I don't have any more time to give. I don't want to give more. I do watch you give, I would say generously. I would say above what the average person I see is giving, above what is expected. Sometimes you're there. You come out and say, well, that's how I'm going to give. I'm going to give my time, maybe above what somebody else might give. I'm not doing it to compare, but that's just how God has wired me. I can give my time. And you really believe you can give your time. Why do you believe that? How do you keep believing that? How do you not feel just tired and drained? And I mean, I'm getting older. I'm feeling tired. How do our listeners feel like,
those days,
you know,
for sure.
they can give? What gives you that supply for you?
I think that's just how I really want to live my faith. I want to be like, as I was raising my kids, I was like trying to teach them what character was. Mm-hmm. And I was like, I tell them, for me, character is when somebody has spent time with you and say someone else says something bad about you, mm-hmm. or says that you've done something that you would never do. Mm-hmm. People that know you and know your character, mm-hmm. would know that you would never be like that. Like, your character can stand up for you when you're not there. Yeah. And can speak for you, mm-hmm. when you can't speak for yourself. And so I just really wanted to live out my faith. I feel so honored to be loved by God, mm-hmm. and to be forgiven for everything that I do. And mm-hmm. I feel so lucky that He loves me and He wants to have a relationship with me. And so why would I not give back? Why would I not try and share that with other people? Mm-hmm. Like, I wouldn't ever want to keep that to myself. Yeah. And I also have found out that the more I help people, the closer I feel to God, and the I don't know, it's just kind of like a circle. Mm. It just, you know, as I serve and as I give, then I get so much back from that. Mm. And I feel closer to God, and I feel like I'm following what He wants for me. And I don't know. So it's in some ways kind of selfish. Like, there's mornings where I'm exhausted. I'm like, I really don't want to go to Sunday school. Mm-hmm. Today I serve first period, mm-hmm. or first period, my first hour, and I'm like, I'd really like to just sleep in and go to church with my family. And but I will tell you, every time I feel like that and mm-hmm. I show up at church, I feel blessed by someone that stops and talks to me, or someone that I get to help, a parent or a kid, or somebody's having a bad day and I get mm-hmm. to step in and maybe make their day a little bit better. Or someone stops me in the hall and says, something happened, and mm-hmm. I'm so glad I was there to share that with them. Yeah. I mean, there's always something that makes me thankful that I stepped out and made the effort to do that. Yeah,
that's amazing, because I think, I guess for me, I want our listeners to think, I don't have to live like everybody else around me is living. There is something different. If Christ is in me, I have a supply. And, you know, if you haven't read 2 Corinthians 9:6-15, do that. That's some of my favorite verses about God being my supply, mm-hmm. and increasing my store of seed and enlarging my harvest, so I can give to people and be rich on every occasion in generosity. And then other people start praising God because of that, you know. But I think if we're not understanding that supply, if we haven't tapped into the God of the heavens who wants to be close to us. You mentioned you're doing this and there's a closeness with God that's resulting, like you're experiencing God in that moment, and that is some of that joy. I think we have something different. We have God in us. So that's what we're offering. That's what we're leaning into when we are tired, when when we feel like we're spent. There's this full bucket that we can tap into if we just would sometimes, right?
Definitely. Yeah.
That's so good. I want to go back to another thing you said was that you just did it and you brought your kids with you. Tell me about a couple times when maybe you chose to bring your kids into this time of trying to teach them, hey, here's what we're going to take this to the neighbor, or we're going to do that. Like, what are a couple of things you did with your kids to just, all right, kids, we're going to just bring you along?
Well, teaching Sunday school started because of my kids, because they wouldn't let me drop them off. And I thought it was really important that I felt it was really important for them to go to Sunday school. So I thought, well, if we're just there and we show them if it's okay and it's safe, then we just kind of never left. I mean, we started when my oldest was 2. And now he's 26. So I've been I've been in children's ministry for 24 years. But with that, my family just came along. Like my daughter and my sons were table leaders. And when the church had events, we would sign up and we would help with setup or we would help with cleanup. Something maybe you don't remember about me, we're always the last ones. Wherever you are, we're always the last ones. We love to visit, we love to talk, and so we're always there at the end. And I was like, oh, well, we should just help clean up because we're here and that's what they've started. And so we would do a lot of that. So I would say like church was probably the big one. But then even when we started at school, it takes an army. It takes people to get things done. And I love our community there. And so if I don't participate, who's going to, you know? I mean,
you're not waiting for
I'm not
somebody
going to
else
be the one to sit at home and let everybody else do it because so that I can reap the benefits. I want to be part of that. I want to be part of getting things going. And so my kids just knew that if there's chairs to be set up, then they need to go set up the chairs. If there's, trash to be taken out, then we're going to take out the trash. But one thing that we do at Christmas, on Christmas Eve, that's always been like our tradition. It's just my family. Like we don't do extended family on Christmas Eve. And serving for Sunday school because they kind of try to give a break to the normal teachers and they just ask people to volunteer for the services. And so that would be, we would go to the first service and we would all serve in children's ministries together. And then we would go to service and then we'd go home and do our Christmas together. And that's kind of been, since my kids were tiny, they've always been a part of that. And again, some of it was fun because they have a bounce house on Christmas Eve and they get to do all that fun stuff. But they found that serving can be fun and it can fill you as well as you helping fill a need.
Yeah, I love how you continue to come back to it. It's filling us, Let me ask you, did your kids ever grumble and complain? I bet we have some listeners out there that are trying to get their kids to be generous. We ought to do this, kids. Come on, and
they did. I got way more pushback as they got older.
Okay.
I don't know.
Got any advice for our parents navigating that these days?
I just think there needs to be expectations. They don't have to do everything, but everybody needs to serve in some way. I don't know. I always go, church and school are my life, so I don't really know other places, but the church can't work if people don't help and people don't serve. It just isn't, it's just not, that's how it works. They don't have enough money or staff to do it without the people. And so I was like, I don't care what you do. Just like even when they went to high school, I don't care what you do. You just need to be involved. Pick something. So in church, pick something that you like, something that's fulfilling, whether it's, I don't even know, whether it's serving or meeting people at the door or coming in and I don't know, being an usher, whatever. There's so many opportunities. But you just need to give back in every aspect of your life. You just got to pick that one thing. It doesn't have to be a lot. But you do need to do something. You need to get outside of yourself and see the need in others.
I like how you said that's how this whole thing functions. And I would broaden it from the church local to the church, like God's church, capital C, like the body of Christ. We show, our relationship with God, and it all kind of works together as we're a part of that, as we're servants of the King of Kings, and our world sees a different side of humanity if we could represent him and his love for mankind, like wherever we are. That's how it functions. If we break down that model, I guess, then what is the world going to see? They're not going to see anything like Christ, right? But if we uphold him to the world, and that's how Christ is going to function in this world, if we represent him, right? I was thinking about a time, it was just reminding me of just trying to take my kids out. We used to, in the summer times, like I had 4 boys. It's a little more rambunctious. They're all home all day during the school year. It's summertime, and I'm trying to think how to make the most of my summertime. And I would kind of map out, like maybe on Mondays we'd have some chores or something, and Fridays would be like a fun, outing kind of a day. But Tuesdays were like our giving day, and so we would find somebody to go bless. And I remember one summer they were actually building the church, and there was all these construction workers out there, and we said, let's just bake a ton of brownies and take them over to the church guy, to the construction workers, and just bless them, you know. And in the middle of their day, it's a hot summer day, and we just brought them, I don't know, brownies and maybe some drinks or something. And, you know, just bringing your kids along, finding ways for them to be a part of generosity with you and know this is what we're going to do. And you brought your kids, you said, this is going to be who we are, you know, and that's our family.
This is who our family is.
This is who our family is.
Well, and it even goes back to just the family. I mean, that's kind of where you start. Like, your family doesn't work. Mom and dad can't do all the work. I was like, if mom and dad are doing all the work and the kids are just laying around not helping, then, well, number one, it's not good for them. But everybody's tired and nobody's having fun. You know, I don't know what the saying is, but many hands makes light work or something like that. And so, it just starts at home. And if they can see how fluidly their family works when they just do their small part, you know, if you each have a small part and your family works, then they can understand how that on the bigger scale works for the church and for the body of Christ.
Yeah, that's so good. Yeah, it's so good bringing it back. Yeah, you have the microcosm of the family, and that is where it starts. You know, if we don't learn how to model that to each other and serve each other, and, you know, honestly, as a young parent, I think I had a hard time with this sometimes with, like, I didn't want to ask anything of my kids that I wasn't also willing to do, you know, or whatever. But at the same time, I had 4 kids, and if I'm doing a bunch, like, there were times I needed them to do things even that I wasn't doing, just so we could all function, right? So we're all a part of this. And I mean, I had to even take some steps to even learn, like, how to engage them in that with me. But certainly, you know, all our kids did chores, and for us, it wasn't like, oh, yay, we're going to pay you. And so that's just part of life at our family. You know, like, we got to function, right? We've got to have a function. Yeah, nowadays they might ask for some pay, but you know, we didn't have the money. We didn't even want to give them money, because this is part of being a family. You get to eat. That's what you get.
We struggled with that too. My kids would always say, why aren't we getting an allowance? My friends get an allowance. And we tried, but they're like, well, what are you going to pay me to take out the trash? And I go, you just need to take out the trash because it needs to be done. And this is how that's how this family works. You know, I was like, family is just helping out and doing things. So I have a hard time. It's just expected. Yeah. There's just things that you do for the good of other people and for the decency of the human race.
There's things you do just for other people, for the good of other people, for the decency of human race. And you know, this is not a podcast on whether or not you should get allowance, on whether or not we should pay. You know, that's a different episode with other people. But, you know, for the sake of today, teaching your kids to serve in the home, teaching your kids to give of their time, to share, you know, we had our first episode, just share their chocolate chips with somebody. That was something we talked about in our first episode, but it's doing those chores. It's helping mom and dad helping them, and them watching us model that. You watched your mom, or go back to your mom again. You watched her not only serve you, but serve all kinds of people in her community. You still know, hey, ask my mom. Maybe she can help you, you know? That's pretty awesome. All right, I want to switch to maybe some verses that have meant something to you in your formation of some of these thoughts. And you mentioned to me James 2:17 and Galatians 6:9 and 10. And
I did.
I could read those, or would you want to read those, or?
I can. For James 2:17, it says, "In the same way, faith by itself, if it is not accompanied by action, is dead." And that, I guess, is probably kind of my motto for life. You know, like, I want to live out my faith. I want people to know that I love Jesus. And I'm not good at saying, do you know Jesus? Would you like to know? I'm not good at breaking that ice, but I always hope and pray that through the way I treat people and through my actions, people will know that I love Jesus, and maybe they'll ask me. Yeah. You know what I mean? I don't know. It's hard for me to be the first one to bring that up, and it shouldn't be, and that's my own struggle. But
but certainly, you know, that verse talks a lot about those actions being important. And certainly that's actually one of the foundational verses of the Hope Venture. You know, like, we feel like that's so important here at the Hope Venture too, because, you know, we're not just talking about this Christianity thing. It ought to be affecting us. We ought to live differently. We ought to be representing him and serving him and helping people know him, not by just our words and But by our actions, and your actions speak loudly, hopefully. And, the Bible talks about they'll know we're Christians by our love for one another. And, I think that says that too. Let's go to the second verse you have there.
Galatians 6, verses 9 and 10. And let us not grow weary of doing good, for in due season we will reap if we do not give up. So then, as we have opportunity, let us do good to everyone, and especially those who are of the household of faith. So, I don't know. I mean, I don't really believe in just those people that are in the household of faith, but in fact, sometimes I feel like the people who aren't are the people who need more help. But I definitely feel like, church is important. It has to be there. I feel like, we've gone through a really hard time over the last few years with keeping the church going and keeping people involved. And I saw a huge drop-off in volunteers over the last few years, both at school and at church.
After COVID.
And so, I've really seen through COVID the need, like why we need the help and the volunteers and why I give of my time.
Yeah. We haven't talked about that on this podcast series yet, about just how COVID has really kind of brought us inward, kind of each man for himself.
Yeah.
And, that volunteering has dropped off. That ability to be out with other people and help them and see their needs and care about those needs. And you're kind of saying, you've watched that in your different spheres. And boy, how important that is for us. If you're listening to this, again, we're talking about generosity. Again, not just money, but our time, our talents, our treasures, everything about us. Surrender to God. God, you can have what you want. And if it is time, and I think it's everything, it's money's a part of that. I think my money shows where my heart is, but certainly my time also shows where my heart is. And I want to be generous in learning how to give to other people. And you said that these have affected you. Do you have any idea when those verses, were you just looking them up because I asked you to find some verses, or when did those start to strike you, or was there a season in your life you just remember them from forever ago?
Not specifically. Just as I search and decide kind of who I want to be.
Yeah.
I watch for verses that speak to me, and those have in the past. They've popped up. I think if you found me on the street and asked me, what were those two verses? I probably couldn't come up with those. It's just kind of their basis, like what they're saying.
Yeah.
Is what speaks to me and kind of what's led my life. So no, not really specific time.
Well, let's talk about how have you led specifically? You've talked a lot about bringing your kids along with you. Is there anything else that you've done either? Well, certainly I know. Let's actually hop into the Hope Venture piece of that first. Of you've led even through church or things like that. Yeah, I remember your second grade class did some stuff for our GOAT project. Or
yes, that was so much fun. That was so much fun. The kids were so excited.
Why was that fun? Tell us a little bit about what that was like.
It was just fun so I do second and third grade Sunday school, and it was fun to just open their eyes and let them see the need. And they see goats as something that you feed at the zoo and pet, and I don't even think they would even realize that it could be a life-changing thing for someone. And so we got to kind of open their eyes, and then they just get excited about, they want to give to others. They just don't always know how it is, and they want to impact others. They want to belong. They want to belong to something, and something positive is definitely good. They just get excited. Was that the year we had the lemonade stand at the church?
I'm trying to remember you also had a hot chocolate stand.
We did. I think we did that for the run because it was so cold in April. Do you remember?
Yeah, I do remember that.
But we might have done the hot chocolate. Maybe it was. I don't know. But anyway, I had so many volunteers. I couldn't even find jobs for all of them. But we had a little boy. We made signs, and he was running all over the church. And I would send older kids with him so that he wouldn't get lost. But he's like,
parents, if you've left your kids with Angie, she's kept them safe. I promise.
I do. I promise. But he was so excited. I think his name was Josiah. I cannot remember his last name, but he was the cutest thing ever. And he would run around with this little sign, you should give us money for the goats. Please give us money for the goats. He's like, come on, come buy some lemonade. We need money for the goats. But he was just so excited to be part of it. And I don't even know if he really understood the whole thing. He just knew he was doing good.
Yeah.
And he knew that it made him happy. And he knew that he loved God.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Ah, this is so good because, you know, again, parents, you're not trying to pull something out of your kids that they don't want. They actually have a lot of fun doing this. There's a lot of joy in this. You've talked not only about the joy and the fun, but even the closeness with God that you yourself have experienced through times of generosity. I mean, in our kids, that's a good thing for them. You're teaching them things that are going to hopefully last for a long time into their lives. I'm trying to think if there's other things you've done with the Hope Venture, with just various spheres of influence that you've had. But how do you hope that it would affect them through their lifetimes? Like those kind of, you know, if you do a little thing with a second grader and, okay, he's excited for a day and he hardly understands it. What good is that long term? Like, what's that going to mean later for him? Or
we also did a backpack thing, and the kids could see that we made little backpacks and put them up on a bulletin board so they could see, and they had a goal, and we actually exceeded that goal that year. But and then I believe you came and talked after that, and kind of just did that follow up to say, you know, and they get to see pictures and they get to see. I guess I just hope that they learn how they feel, and they learn that even a small amount, you know, because we really encourage them not just to ask their parents for money, but we encourage them to do something to earn the money, like so that they had some what's that called? Some I don't know, skin in the game. That's what I was trying to think of. So they kind of had some skin in the game, so that it was, you know, them. But we're like, ask your parents what you could do to earn some money, or see if your grandparents will let you rake their yard or whatever, you know, so you can earn a few dollars to donate. And then just to see that just even those little things can make a difference in someone's life, even that they don't know. And then just to know how that makes them feel, and to know that they're following what God wants for their life, and how easy it is. I really think, for me at least, the hardest thing is saying yes and taking that first step. Because once you do it, once you're in it, you just... you're there, you get wrapped up. It's a good experience. The hardest part is when you're sitting on your couch and someone asks you to get up and walk out the front door. You know, I mean, otherwise it's easy.
That's really good. Anything else you want to share about generosity that maybe we haven't covered? Anything else about serving?
I just feel like it comes back to you tenfold, and that shouldn't be the why you do it, but it really does. I feel like in every little bit, you know, like you say, I'm generous, and I was like, I really just help on Sunday mornings and Sunday school. Instead of going for an hour, I go for 2 hours. You know, it's not like it's a ton of my time. I'd just be sleeping otherwise, you know.
Well, if we added up 24 years times 52 weeks, that's like 1,000 hours. You know, no big deal, but those, you know, hour a week adds up.
It does.
You know, and it's not just an hour a week, but there's some other things, obviously. But I think as we wrap things up and come to a close, we've done 4 weeks of this for ourselves, and I think we've talked about small things we could do. We've talked about being intentional. We've talked about giving ourselves some grace because, you know, we make mistakes in it. And I think, you know, a couple things that come to my mind as you're talking, that I think reminding ourselves that our time is our service, and through our time is a huge way we're generous. I think I'm hearing you say, and a few of our guests have said this, you know, it's not like I had all the money in the world to just throw it all over the place and be generous, so to speak. But I gave what I could. And all these episodes we talked about, this is just who I am. And I just chose, and I'm trying to choose, and none of us are still doing that perfectly. We're still learning. But I'm just choosing to give what I can, and that can be time, and that can be huge. And not only have you done it, but you've received it. You know, the fire, the the accident, like, and so many other times I'm sure in your life, but those are big moments where, gosh, if nobody did step in there, you feel pretty alone. And I think, you know, you have a lot of friends or whatever, but there's a lot of people out there, if they were to go through something and feel really alone, if just somebody would notice them and bring one meal over, or just, hey, I work in insurance and I could help you with this. I'm your neighbor, but I have a skill I could offer you that maybe you need right now. Or I have contact lenses I could get you a month's worth, and that's what I can offer. And, people are giving in ways that they can. And to do that with a servant heart. And then just, I really want to emphasize again that intimacy that comes from that blessing, that joy, to tap into that. If you don't know, maybe this is new for you. Maybe some of these concepts of really going over the top, if you didn't see that modeled for you, like you happen to see that from your parents, but maybe a listener didn't see somebody model to them going above and over the top. But I just want to encourage you to read some of these passages we've talked about over the different weeks. I would encourage you to read 2 Corinthians 9. Watch how people have given over the top. Even go back to 2 Corinthians 8. I'll just say that. But, think about your own life and what you want your kids to see from you. We heard from Angie today. She saw something in her mom that changed her life forever. And now it's changed your kids. And they're probably, if I interviewed your kids on here, they'd be saying the same thing. I just watched my mom and dad do that. You mentioned your husband teaching Sunday school with you. Like not a lot of husbands and wives do that together. Would encourage you guys. It takes all of us coming together, functioning together as the family unit, as the church local unit, as the church broad in the global sense unit, that this is how we represent Christ, right? We can show something different. We can go above and beyond. So today I just want to challenge you to give what you can and to find that intimacy with Christ that you're looking for through generosity. Love you guys. Live and love generously, people. Woo! All right. Is that it?
Good ending. You don't hang out with 20-year-olds at all. I can't even tell.